thank you so much for coming out tonight for what is the, well, not the last event on the cruise, but it's my last event on the cruise because I'm not going to be able to stand up much longer. So, but it's an absolute thrill to be here with you. I hope you all had a great time on the cruise. I was very disappointed when Leslie Ann Warren could not come on the cruise, but I will tell you that I was absolutely thrilled when I learned about who was replacing her, because like many of you, this woman has been a staple, right, in our lives from like the 1960s on. And the greatest thing I can say about a performer is that you always know when when you see their name attached to whatever it is, whether it's a stage show, a television show, a movie, whatever. It's like, oh, she's in this. I am watching this because I know she is going to be great, if not the best thing in it. So it is my absolute pleasure to welcome the magnificent Brenda Vaccaro.
I keep thinking I'm drunk. I don't even drink. Okay, here we are. Thank God I'm down. No, I'm scared. I mean, all of a sudden you know, I'm like putting on makeup and I'm going like this. I went, how do I stop this? It's disorientating, isn't it? Anyway, how are you?
Well, I'll tell you how I am.
Okay.
I do drink. And I had a couple. Because I said, and I know Brenda, I know you don't drink, but I said, I gotta have a couple just to catch up with Brenda in her natural state. I have to do that, so.
I'm gonna take that as a compliment.
It was entirely meant as a compliment.
I know, I accept it.
You are fabulous, dear.
Thank you, darling, but you are too.
Well,
when we first met, it was really good. It was magic. I thought, wow, this guy's really smart, he's fun. I really liked you straight away.
Wait. Lift that microphone up so everybody can hear you say that again.
Oh my God.
Say that again now.
I still don't know how to work these things. When you're on stage, you expect the mic's over there. You know, okay. Can you hear me? Yes. Ooh, I like the way you said that.
This is an enthusiastic crowd.
I think they're ready for some. Nice.
I think, Brenda, I think they're ready for some stories.
Okay.
I think, yeah, absolutely. So,
well, let's carefully go.
Okay, let's start. We'll start slowly, and I guarantee you by the time we reach the 60-minute mark, you guys are going to be wondering where the hell you are. So, okay, here we go. I always thought you were 100% a New Yorker. And then I learned that you actually grew up in Texas.
Yes.
So how the hell did that happen?
God almighty. There are enough old people out here to know about all this. I guess my father, who graduated from NYU as a lawyer, in the, would it be the late 20s, couldn't get a job in New York City as a young lawyer. And my mother had given birth to me. His mother was bedridden. Poor guy couldn't get a job. And so, cousin Benny Messina, sounds like a mafia, doesn't it? He called, and my father said, I'm really having a desperate time here. I got these responsibilities. And he said, come on down here to Texas, we'll get you working. There were a lot of Italians that went to different states, but Texas? I even felt that was bizarre, you know, but there was Benny Messina, and he opened up an Italian restaurant in Texas. They didn't know what, they said Italian. They had no idea, you know, what it was all about. Anyway, my father went there and he opened the restaurant. And he became, when he died, which was way too early, I found all these books in the garage. And I opened up the barrels that they were in, and they were all cookbooks and underlined and everything. So from becoming a young lawyer, he ended up being a chef. But that's the 1930s story. You know, that was hard in those days.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, and he tried to practice law in Texas. And guess what he said? They don't wear any jackets. They make up the law right on the spot. He said, I can't practice down here. Isn't that interesting? I mean, Texans are
It was still the Wild West a little bit then.
What'd you say?
It was still kind of the Wild West in Texas.
Yeah, I think they said to the father, you practice our way or there's no way. So my father couldn't stand for that. So anyway.
But this restaurant was a big deal, right? I mean, it was like
Mario's
restaurant, right?
Jimmy Durante came. The Dallas State Fair was right next door, not far away. So Jimmy Durante would come, and I got to sing with Jimmy Durante. Do you believe it? I was just a kid, but he put me up on the table. How could you believe me when I said I loved you? When you knew I was a liar. Oh. And afterwards he said, I know. Afterwards he turned to my father and he said, this kid's going to be in show business. And my father went, oh. He had more intellectual aspirations for me.
So this is an extraordinary crowd. The song that she just sang is from what movie?
The what?
Royal Wedding, that's right. The song that you just sampled there.
It's Jimmy Durante sang it, right?
Right, and it's from Royal Wedding, right? It's all right. I like to try to stump the TCM audience, but I never can because they always know what the
Forgive me if it sounded like a stump. I was just remembering it as it was told to me by my mother, you know. But for him, of all people, to be caught in Texas in those days, that was tough. You know, that was tough. But anyway, where was I going with this story?
Nowhere, you just went there.
Oh, did I?
And now I'll tell you where we're going.
Yeah, it's done. Let's move right along.
So now you're the daughter of restaurateurs in Texas, but obviously you're going to end up back in New York, right? To study act. What made you decide that you wanted to be a performer?
I think I just knew it. I think things like that sometimes are a blessing. My mother's mother came to visit, and she said in Italian to my mother, "I'm worried about her. She gets up on the couch, and looks in the mirror, and makes faces." And I think that somehow
Did they think there was something wrong with you?
Sometimes you know where you're going, but you don't know, but you know where you're going. The force is strong. The force is strong. My father was heartbroken because he said, how can you give up the last 4 years of freedom you'll ever have? He meant college. And I said, because I know I don't belong there. And he said, what do you mean you don't belong there? And education is more important than anything. And I said, no, I need to go to New York and be in the theater. He went, oh my God. He said, how did you give up the last 4 years of the real true freedom you'll ever really have? He said pretty important things to me. I didn't give a shit. Well, wait a minute. You laugh, but you know it's true. And you know you got to do something. You got to do it. You got to go and you got to do it. So he finally realized it, and he sent me to New York to go to all these different schools to see which ones I would want to go to. And the last day of his life, I talked to him on the phone. He was 58.
Oh.
They didn't have Eloquist in those days. And he said, well, what's the itinerary of each school? Dad, there's no itinerary in a drama school, you know? And he said, which one do you like? And we discussed it. He said, well, then you go to the neighborhood playhouse school in the theater. I said, yes, sir. He said, I can't believe you're giving up 4 years of the last true freedom you'll ever have. And I said, it's not freedom to me, Dad. I said, you know, it would lock me in, and I'm not a great scholar. And I wasn't, you know, he would come home and he was such a great scholar. He put himself through college, and he was an extraordinary gent. I would open up Charles Dickens' book, what do you mean, the Pickwick Papers, Dad? And he looked at me and said, where are you in the book? He knew. He knew I wasn't reading. He knew that I wasn't pursuing education, you know, and he was a Sicilian. He came over here on the boat, for Christ's sake, with a little hat and on a donkey. I mean, it's really true.
Well, you can tell that he lived through the Depression.
Yes, he did.
Because when you quote him as saying it's the last 4 years of freedom you're ever going to have, that's something that somebody who lived through the Depression is going to say. Because what I take him to mean is that you're going to be working your ass off to survive once you get out of school.
Right.
You know, that's all you're going to be doing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he was nervous for you, because as most creative people.
Well, he knew I wasn't a scholar.
Yeah.
See, he knew I wasn't orientated towards, like, you know, getting A pluses.
Yeah. But I mean, it's such a common thing that people in the arts go through, because they have parents who lived through the Depression, people our age. They have people who lived through the Depression who are terrified of you deciding to make a career in the arts, because you're going to starve.
He thought it was going to be tougher.
Yeah. So why wasn't it? Because you hit New York and you took your classes and you studied with Sanford Meisner, was it one of your acting
No,
teachers?
he had left to go and be a teacher at a Hollywood studio. I had David Pressman. He just laughed and cried and everything. He'd do a scene and he was crying. I think that was wonderful. I went, oh my God. But one thing my dad said to me, he said, you're giving up the last true freedom you're ever going to have. And because he was smart and he had this poetic sensibility that was interesting, you know. But I knew where I was going. I'm sorry. And I think that I was happy that I had the strength and the courage to do what I wanted to do. Even though it wasn't clear to me what I wanted to do. And he said the first thing you need to do is not to smoke. You got a voice that was made to work on one, he said. Isn't that interesting?
Wait, say that again?
He said, don't smoke, because I was smoking cigarettes, you know, and he said, because you have a voice that was made to work on one, meaning it was powerful.
Yeah.
And it was emotional, or he was complimenting my voice, but he was telling me that he was. I mean, he started to be saddened with, my daughter's not a scholar. You know, I didn't care. I knew where I was going, I guess.
Did you smoke anyway?
Yeah.
So
I mean, you couldn't get me in college. What was a cigarette? Nothing.
So are you telling me that this voice, do cigarettes have something to do with this voice, or is this your
I had this
natural
voice.
voice?
My mother had this voice. And in the 20s, she went into audition with a ukulele. And the guy said to her, he was in the pit, had a cigar, and he was playing the piano. He stopped, he said, we're not hiring baritones today. But she went out and cried. But she didn't pursue it, you see. Those days were different. People were different.
Well, you know,
You tried something, if it didn't work, you better go get something else. You know, there was the Depression. My father graduated with honors, and he couldn't get a job as a lawyer in New York City. And Benny Messina told him, come on down here, Mario, we'll get you work. And he hated the courts. He said, in the southern courts, he said, they take off their jackets. He said, they're vulgar. They don't follow the law. I mean, he was like a New York lawyer. To him, this was like undisciplined and not correct. So why would he practice? You know, why would he become a lawyer in Texas? He didn't like it.
So he made the natural transition to being a restaurateur.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
like most lawyers do that.
He had a baby. Hello.
Yeah.
He had
yeah.
my mother. You know, it was the Depression. Nobody was making money. It was a hard struggle to do anything. He just got caught in the bad time. You know. But anyway, that's about what happened, guys.
So now you're in New York wanting to be a performer, and that was always to be an actress?
Yes.
Okay. And when you take acting classes, tell us what is beneficial in an acting class versus what you feel naturally coming in? Because when you're telling me this story about how I always knew this is what I wanted, I knew this is what I could do.
Yeah.
Do the classes help bring that natural thing out, or what you're hearing in the class kind of say, well, I don't know if
it's
that's
a place
me.
where you can express, with hopefully the wisdom you garner, that you can express your talent or your understanding of a character. I don't know, I began to understand that I was really truly an actress, and that my interpretation, and I was in a pure state when I did it. Clifford Odets wrote a play, I forget the name of it, but I remember he saying, even during the war, people were having babies. That was one of the lines in the play. I'll never forget it. And I remember all of a sudden my voice shaking, and I was about to cry. And that line was the line I was saying to my husband. But as time went on, I began to realize I have a power to do this. This is for me. This is right. You gotta know that. I didn't want to get involved in something I didn't like college. Probably stupid of me. But anyway, there wasn't.
Can I make a confession,
You know what I have
Brenda?
to say? You want to know that I didn't have a choice. And that's one of the greatest things in life. Even if you're in love, you don't have a choice. You're in love.
This is what you were going to do when there was no.
And I knew it. And especially 2 years at the Playhouse, the neighborhood Playhouse School of the Theater, with Martha Graham teaching you modern dance. She used to hit the inside of my legs. She was mean. She wanted to turn out, whatever the hell she wanted. I mean, everybody was more aware of her than I was. I mean, she was a genius. Where was I gonna get that in college? Read a book and come in and pass the test? I don't know that I thought like that. I just knew I knew it wasn't for me. You know how you know when something's not for you? I don't care if it's somebody you're going to marry, God forbid, and it's not right for you and you know it, then you don't. I guess I had that sense of follow through. You hear it, you feel it, follow it.
Well, for what it's worth, Brenda.
What do you think?
I never went to college, so
Why?
It wasn't for me.
See?
I think
You
we're
believe
kind of.
this guy?
I think we're kind of kindred spirits.
Oh,
in this
why?
respect.
But why?
Like your dad saying it's 4 years, your last 4 years of freedom. For me, it's like 4 more years of authority. So like
And it was 4 years of a prison for me.
Yeah, I don't want to go to college. I want to go to art school. So I went. That was my thing.
See?
But here's what I want to ask you about. When you're in New York at that time, and this I'm assuming is like the 1950s, late 1950s.
1958.
1958.
I'm not ashamed of it.
The year I was born. So yeah, there you go. But that was a heady time for the arts in New York.
There was still great theater.
Yeah, great.
You could go see great Jason Robards. Great play. King Stanley. Geraldine Page. Oh my God, the other was so
And so I'm sure that you had classmates in these things who went on to be great artists like yourself.
Jimmy Kahn, Dabney Coleman, Liz Ashley. Want to hear some more?
Oh yeah.
The class was brilliant. The class was exciting. It was a good time.
And
It was the right time.
There's really nothing really like that anymore.
I'm not sure.
Well, I don't.
I haven't been
so.
around.
I don't think so, because now, because of the internet and social media and everything, that everything is kind of fragmented, and people learn on their own. There isn't a communal thing, and I'm so envious of stories like this where people were in a creative incubator with other great people, and I don't really know if that happens so much anymore.
I think it does.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
I just saw that young man do Bobby Darin in a Broadway show. It took my breath away. He's so brilliant, there aren't words for his performance. The tickets are $700. I didn't pay that. I wouldn't pay it. I think that's wrong. but his performance is out, and he's young. And I said, I just have to go backstage. I have to look at him in the eye. It was brilliant. If you're anywhere near that theater, go. It just, the theater is still alive, is
They're
what
saving
I'm
up for the
saying.
next TCM cruise. They can't afford $700 for it.
No, well, neither can I. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's not what the theater's about. I found it offensive. I don't know why, but he's brilliant. And I felt the theater will always be alive, talent will always be there. You know, I have faith in it. I believe in it. You know, I don't think that there's a lot of shitty plays everywhere, you know? There's shitty movies too. You go to the movie and have a great review, I hate it. You know, so, but I think excellence will always exist. We need it, it's there. We look up to it, we long for it. And when it's not there, we damn well know it's not there. That's because we keep looking for it, and every time it's good, we're happy. We're happy we saw it. Aren't you?
Absolutely.
And I went backstage, I said, listen, I can only say one thing. If I hadn't seen you in this, I don't think I'd have been happy. Because I would know what I missed with other people telling me. But you do. He's brilliant. It just takes your breath away. You know, and that's what you look for in the theater. That's the part you want to play. Or, you know, I think things are still magical. Don't you? There's magic.
Well, Wendy, I want you to tell the audience a story that you told me the other day about How Now, Dow Jones, which was a show that you did in, I think it was 1967.
Was it?
I think it was 19... As a host, you say, I think it was 1967. Like I didn't look this up just before we came out on stage, right? Trust me, Brenda, it was 1967.
Okay, I do, and I'm going 1967.
Sorry to break the news to you. Yeah, it was 1967.
Okay, I'm with it.
You told me this great story about having your big song in the show, right? And that George Abbott was the director.
Oh, now I know what you mean.
Yeah. And Elmer Bernstein
wrote the music. Dorothy Fields wrote the lyrics.
Yeah.
It was top dollar. No question about it. It was a great experience.
And you had
Broadway
a big
musical.
number.
And it was my first time, I think, in a Broadway musical. And I had a song called He's Here. Because it was all about the stock market, and supposedly I was the mistress to the guy who ran the stock market. Who was the big Willie there, right? I know. And I had this song called He's Here because he walks into my apartment, and I didn't expect him. So the song's all about he's here, and I didn't know he was coming, you know? And it was quite a brilliant lyric. I wish we had it, because we could play it, and you'd understand.
We could have done it as karaoke.
Somebody get up and sing it. Anyway, and so I sang it, just like I did every night. Dorothy Fields never said anything to me. Elmer Bernstein wrote the music. And they fired Arthur Penn and hired George Abbott.
Oh!
This is Broadway history. And I was so horrified, because I loved Arthur Penn. He was brilliant.
He was the
I didn't
maverick.
know George Abbott. I knew who he was. He was famous. Anyway, when the song was over, the audience started applauding. Okay. And they didn't stop. So I was like floored. It was the first time I stopped a show. You know, that's like, can be infamous. But it's also kind of exciting if you're the one who's doing the singing. You know, because I was like, you couldn't begin because the applause was so much and for so long. You know? And finally I turned, I guess I'm embarrassed to tell you.
Oh, I got you into this. You got to get yourself out of it now.
Love you. I know. Well, yeah. You sound like my mother. I made a big mistake. I turned to the audience unknowingly. honest and said, thank you, because I mean, they didn't stop. Okay. The actor who played the head of the stock market looked at me like this. Peter, who was the orchestra leader, he was like, everybody in Broadway theater, you're thanking the audience? You're stopping the show and thanking the audience? All right, so I really thought I was okay. I thought I did the right thing. All I hear, he's coming down the hallway, George Abbott. Boom, my door opens wide and hits the wall. He said, how dare you? And I was like, he let me have it big time. You never, ever thank the audience. Not in a show that's my show. And he's pointing at me like I knew what I was doing. I didn't know that it was wrong to do that. It just spontaneously came out of me because they didn't stop. And I'd never stopped the show before. What did I know? Well, he let me have it. Boy, what a lesson. And I have a picture of Elmer Bernstein coming back, giving me a hug.
Yeah, this is the part I love.
Yeah. And I'm looking up at him like this, and he was hugging me because he was much more sympathetic. George Abbott had no room for sympathy. He just thought I was an idiot. And you never thank the audience. You just keep going, or you stop, and you wait, and then that's it. So we have our lessons. We get our lessons in different ways. I don't think he talked to me for a week.
He didn't talk to anybody. I mean,
He was
legendarily.
He was a tough
prick.
cookie.
He was a prick. That's
Yeah,
all there is to it.
He was a prick. And but boy, he was a good. He said to Matt, he fired Madeline Kahn.
Can you imagine somebody being arrogant enough to fire one of the greatest comedians ever?
She was such a great comedian, but she had that delivery that was very much her special delivery, and her whole comedic genius was that kind of, she was brilliant. He didn't accept it. He didn't like it. And once when in rehearsal, when he first showed up, you know what he did? He said, what are you, a dancer over there? And he pointed to me. He said, are you a singer? I went, I'm starring in this thing. He had no idea. He didn't give a shit. It was like, but he was a great director, and he had huge successes. There wouldn't be a Gwen Verdon if it wasn't for him.
That's true.
So I mean, you have these experiences in the theater, hard lessons, some of them, but I never thanked the audience again. It was a lesson.
Until today.
Thank you, guys. I'm glad George isn't here. Oh my God, these are the things that you learn, But
yeah.
I guess because it was on Broadway, it was infamous. You have to, but there's ways to learn things. I learned different things from different people.
But it's so.
It was always a gift.
See, I totally understand that though, because you've been so successful in all these different areas of show business. On the stage, in movies, in television, all of this stuff. But how? I want you to kind of compare what you get out of these and what's different about them, because what you get from a live audience is so extraordinary.
Extraordinary.
That how could you not kind of revel in that moment and let them know that you appreciate it?
Rather than revel, I think you appreciate, because that's the hope from the audience and the hope for you, that everybody goes together, and they all get it, and they laugh. You gave them something, and they gave you something. I love the theater because of that. I think it's far more giving because it's illuminatingly alive. It's happening right then and there. People go see you in a movie. That's nice. It's nice. But you never hear anything like you hear in the theater.
Yeah.
I miss the theater, but I don't know if I have the energy anymore to do it.
Well,
I mean, that's learning lines. That's, 7 performances?
Yeah.
Sally's Brothers is still doing it. She's in a play right now, a musical. I mean, I honor that girl. She's my friend. We did Odd Couple together, the female version. And she's going like,
Well, you're still going. Come on, you got the Netflix series. You got Nanas, the Netflix series. I mean, how cool is that?
you know, I know my mother's in heaven making that movie happen. You know, I was 17 and I was running out of the house and my mother stopped me. Brenda, she was at the kitchen table. And I said, yeah, Ma. And she said, remember one thing, family is everything. And I said, 17, I went, yeah, okay. And I ran. All I do to these days now, I say family is everything. It's like, means so much to me now. And it's true. It's absolutely true. And so this movie, 1.6 billion people have seen this movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the biggest shows on Netflix.
By that. I had no idea. And people say it's all about family to me. On the street in New York, they say, hey, and I go, hi. You know, they say, I love that movie. And it made me think of my aunts in Italy. And I go, really? He said, yeah, I got 3 aunts. I said, so do I. You know, so it means a lot to people. I'm really glad I did that movie. I didn't have any idea what it was going to be. And the girl that wrote it gave me this bracelet. Look at how dainty it is. You can't even see it. Forget it. You'll never see it. You see this little tiny piece of... She's so shy. Brenda, I'm so glad you're in the movie. I mean, the movie's fabulous, you know, and we were all free, like Lorraine Bracco, everybody. Talia Shire was adorable, and Susan Sarandon was great. She played her part brilliantly. And Vince Vaughn, he was fantastic. I hadn't seen this movie. I didn't really know the guy. I just heard he was a big drinker, big druggie. You know, you hear that gossip about people, but he was wonderful.
That doesn't mean you can't
And
be
you know
wonderful.
He's adorable, isn't he? He's so sweet. Oh my God, yeah. Well, I had a wonderful time. I'll tell you something about Vince Vaughn that I really loved that I know you're going to love. It's the first day of rehearsal. I don't know the guy. I hadn't seen his movies. I didn't know him. Anyway, everybody gets up because they gave us an hour for lunch. Oh, hey, that's great. I thought I'd sit at the table, which was a long table of all these actors, and they all got up and they were going to go and get something to eat. And so I was underlining my lines, looking at the script, and I noticed he was like 3 seats away from me at the table where we had our first reading. And he said, you know something interesting? He said, I've gone through quite a difficult time when I gave up drugs and I gave up drinking and everything. He said, and I was working, but he said, I knew that I had a choice. And my choice was, and I'm going, what the hell is he doing to me? I was kind of like, yeah. I didn't know what he was expressing.
Where are you going?
You know? And he said, I could have just carried on the way I was, or I could meet a girl and get married and have family. There's a choice there for a man at a certain point, at a certain age, he said. I had to make a choice. And I'm thinking, what's he telling me this for? But I was fascinated at how open he was. And I thought it was charming and interesting. And he said, I then, all of a sudden, met this Canadian lady, and he said she was beautiful, and we had a great time together. And I was calling her, she was calling me, we were writing, and meanwhile, I'm like this. I'm like fascinated. He's telling me about this time in his life. And he said, and we fell in love. And I got married. And I said, uh-huh. He said, I saved myself, Brenda. I said, what a great story to tell me. Is that so? And I said, so? He said, yeah, I don't drink, I don't take drugs. I got 2 kids. I adore them. and I'm doing this movie and I'm producing it. I said, congratulations. I said, you gotta be really proud of yourself, are you? And he said, yeah. And I said, okay, I'm proud of you. And I loved him throughout the movie. You notice how, if you saw it, how good he is in that movie?
Vince Vaughn is really underrated. He is really a good
really
actor.
underrated. But it's his fault because he was like, I remember hearing about him. He was a wacko. You know, he was into drugs. He was kind of crazy, irresponsible, different women all the time. You know, but for him to tell me this, oh, hello over there. But for him to tell me all this, which was so simply and gently said, I said, well, I really like this guy. I said, this is a great thing. This is going to be a good movie. And he was so permissive with everybody. I mean, Lorraine Baracco and I were making things up. I threw a fruit at her, she threw a fruit back. I mean, we were all having such a good time, you know?
Well, you're kind of known for your improvisational
Really?
abilities. I think so. So I have heard.
I have respect for the script, though, let me tell you.
Well, okay, but explain to us how, when do you know it's okay to kind of go off, well, it's never okay to go off book on stage, but like if you're making a movie and you know you're going to get another take, like this thing you did with Lorraine, and you think, like, how do you know when that's okay?
You have to have a permissive director who understands, like even Barry, oh God, what's his name? Dr. Court with
Barry Levinson.
Barry Levinson.
Yeah.
I loved working with him. He was wonderful.
And you are fantastic in that.
Do
that
you
show.
know something?
Yeah.
I'll tell you a great story. Al Pacino and I.
This is the Jack Kevorkian
Yeah,
story,
about
right?
Dr. Kevorkian. He played Kevorkian, I played his sister. And the scene that they wrote was terrible. It had nothing to do with the truth. It was like soapy, it was terrible. So anyway, I said to him, we're getting ready to do this scene today. How do you feel? He said, I don't like it either. I said, all right, well, we'll do our best with it, you know. So if he's on one side of the camera, I'm on the other side of the camera. We're getting ready to shoot this scene. And he said, he leans forward to me, this son of a bitch. And I mean, right then, just before they say action, and he goes, we're off the script, okay? And I remembered, like, this isn't happening. I said, God. And I looked at him and I said, yeah, okay. I thought we're going to do an improv. That's what it's going to be. What's it going to be? We're not using the lines. So sure enough, we sit down. You know that scene is on something where you can look it up and see it.
Okay.
You saw it.
Yeah.
Do you know that?
You don't know Jack. It's a really, really terrific film.
There wasn't one line in that scene that was written. That was all improvisation. And I mean, I myself have been, I can tell you, the fun thing is all of a sudden you feel like you're flying in the sky. You know, you don't know what you're going to say next. You know, and so all of a sudden it's like beautiful. You're like flying, not knowing what's happening. Like you would be in life. I think I was playing my Aunt Marge. You know, I had you know, what about me? I heard that, and so I used it. It just came to me. It was like flowing and glowing. You know, and so that was a magnificent thing that happened. Once in a while, life surprises you with the best thing. That's why I keep my faith.
Okay, very, very good.
Isn't it true?
Absolutely true. And
You got a story like that?
No, well, no, I came to hear you, Brenda.
No, but you know what I'm saying.
I want to
All
ask
of us
you.
have had some magical thing like
Yeah,
that happen,
yeah.
you know. Whether it's in business, whether it's with a child, whether it's with somebody you've fallen in love with. I've had that too. You know, but it's important to open and be, and let it happen. Let it be.
Yeah. And
Am I right?
You are absolutely right. I'm flowing and glowing, I want you to tell me the history of Flowing and Glowing. Did
You love that?
You dropped that on me yesterday when I saw you, and I'm like, yeah, I love that. Just flowing and glowing, baby. And it's like, then I did a little research, and it's like, oh, there's an interesting story behind where you picked this up.
Well, I was in love with Richie Cole. Anybody know Richie Cole? Alto saxophone player.
Musician.
He was a genius.
Somebody should have told you, don't go with sax players. That's not.
What?
Don't go with saxophone players. There's no percentage
No,
in it.
Helen Reddy told me, are you crazy? I said, I'm going with Richie Cole to Canada. She said, what? Don't you dare stay away from those alto saxophone players. They're crazy. He was a genius.
And you have to trust Helen Reddy. Come on. Hear me roar. I am a woman. Hear me roar. Yeah.
I loved her. She didn't mess around. She always said the truth. I really admired her, you know.
But tell us
Eddie
the
Jefferson
flowing story.
and Richie Cole got together. Eddie Jefferson did scat, which is so much better than rap. I hope there's no musician out there that can sell to him. Anyway, but and Richie was a brilliant alto saxophone player, brilliant. And so I was in love with Richie, and he was going to go to different places. We ended up in Detroit in the 70s. I didn't realize this, so I was so uninformed that was a very difficult time in Detroit.
Oh yeah.
People were saying
we almost lost Detroit.
Food. The windows had black in them where people had moved out. I mean, it was bad. I didn't really realize that. But I remember some visions of things that I saw. Anyway, they were in this dinky jazz club. And on the outside, you know, the glass with the pictures inside of it were on the wall out the door. And there was Jerry Mulligan and Paul Desmond. And their pictures were there, but the sides of the pictures were rolled up. I mean, that's how old that jazz club was, and probably how unimportant it was. Anyway, they were brilliant. They were out of this world. And I wanted to go home. I felt like the band wife. You know, I was bored out of my mind. It was the last time I was going to go on the road with a jazz alto saxophone player. But anyway, we were going to go home the next day. So I went in the green room because I was just so bored. I was thinking about tomorrow. And all of a sudden, I sat down and I had a joint.
This is a Disney cruise, but I believe we are familiar with what a joint might be.
I don't know how not to tell the truth. I mean, anyway, I was bored out of my mind, okay? I wanted to go sailing somewhere. And a glass of whiskey and something else, it doesn't matter what it was. So, anyway, let's go sailing. That's so great what you did. Anyway, so I was just going to keep myself, you know, busy. And all of a sudden I hear, you got to pick one. And I like, what? Nobody was in the room but me. You can't do them all. You got to pick one. And I said, excuse me. All of a sudden I see this guy on these wooden boxes. And he's like, looks like he's 102. He's got a little jazz hat on and his rings, his hands are on his knees and all his fingers have rings on them. And he's definitely a musician. I mean, that he was so old, I couldn't believe it. And he said, you're too nervous. You're like a fart in a fry pan. I'm telling you the truth. I didn't make this up. And I thought, what is this? I mean, who is this guy? He said, yeah, you're too nervous. And he said, you got to learn to fly, you got to learn that life is flying and flowing and glowing. And I said, what? He said, yeah, baby, you're nervous. Life is just flowing and glowing. That's all it is. He said, you don't need all that shit. You know, and I said, oh, I get it. Okay, thank you. But who is this bastard? why is he here? I couldn't understand, you know? But he was really serious about what he was saying, and he had wisdom of definitely an old jazz musician. All of a sudden, now you're not going to believe this, but it's true. Eddie's been shot. So Eddie Jefferson died that night outside on the street in Detroit with his young girlfriend. He got shot by somebody, and the girl came back in and was on the floor going around in a circle. I walked out of the green room because I heard Eddie's been shot, and I see Richie crying, and I see this girl going around in a circle in hysterics because obviously she saw the whole thing. And needless to say, it was one of those momentous, sad situations in my life that I saw. I was part of this. And it was really sad and scary. And I walked back into the green room just to get out of the noise, you know, and they were calling the police, blah, 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 blah. He was gone. And the boxes that he was sitting on were gone. Now, I'm not a religious person. I don't have any of these kind of ideas, and you know, I don't believe in all that stuff. And so I was like, what is that, you know? Well, I don't know who he was, but he changed my life with that word about flowing and glowing. I use it all the time. You know, if somebody is a friend of mine and they're sad, I say, why don't you try flowing and glowing today? Flowing and glowing. And it's because I thought if I ever write a book, which I have that book, but it's say, I was going to call it Life is Flowing and Glowing. And he said that to me. He said, life is just flowing and glowing, that's all it is. You know, so here was this old guy in Detroit. It made that experience so important, you know, and different. Oh my God, was it different? You know, who the hell was that? And he was gone. When I went back in the room, he wasn't there, which is fine by me. You know, it's okay. It was meant to be what it was, and that was it. And I think I was blessed in a way. And we left after the detectives talked to us the next day. Adeline Delton left. And but I never forgot him. And I never forgot what he said. Don't you love a fart in a fry pan? I mean, he was an original. That guy was, and he was a musician. You could tell it the way he, you know, the way he talked. So that was, that's the story.
Fabulous. That's
Don't you love that?
I do.
I mean, that's the true story.
So
Did I really tell that?
You did. You told it, and you told it really
Okay,
well.
well,
It was
I
great.
don't know.
I love that story. So I do want to know about some of the, like in your time in show business, what are the most lasting relationships that you formed? Like who are your like solid rocks that you've met?
Abe Burrows and Cactus Flower, I adored him. I came right out of school, and so I was on stage, and at the neighborhood playhouse, they believed in improv to get to the meaning of the scene. And I was doing improvs with Bert Brinkerhoff, and at the end of the day, the rehearsal was over, and Abe Burrows, you know, who was a genius comedy, Jesus, what he wrote, Guys and Dolls.
Yeah.
As he's leaving, I'm leaving, he said, hey kid! And I turned around and he said, you did good today, you said at least 2 of my lines. I'll never forget. He was, I loved him. He gave me the part, he gave me a beginning of Broadway history. He put me in Broadway history. I was very proud to know him. I've known some great, really great people. It's been a great journey. I've loved it. You know?
Yeah.
I never was really all that sad, except if I didn't get a part. Like Barefoot in the Park, Liz Ashley, one of my best friends, got it, and Robert Redford was like, oh, and I loved him. I can't believe he died. Oh my God. What a gentleman. What an honorable fellow he was. But anyway, I've known some great people. I've done some great work. I don't think I'd turn back and do anything different. I don't think I would.
Isn't that fantastic?
Isn't it good?
Yes, because I remember Well, let me just admit this. I remember one night in my life when I was maybe had a few too many of everything.
I understand that.
And I was having one of those conversations you have at that time, and somebody said, "What is it that you really want to get out of life?" And I said, "No regrets." That's what I want out of life.
Yeah.
No regrets, right?
I feel the same thing. I don't want to do. But I mean,
Yeah.
if a regret comes along, but that you learn something from it, then it's okay to regret it. But I think
You gotta make mistakes. You gotta make mistakes.
You
But
can't-
that's not the same as
can't
having
get along
regrets,
without
right? I don't regret any mistakes I've
Me
made,
neither.
you
Me
know?
neither.
Yeah. So I mean, that's kind of the crucial thing. But I know that there's a woman over here that I heard talking who's saying dish, 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 and I know what she really wants me to do is ask about some, like, you want to talk a little bit about Michael Douglas? I know that's what they were asking about. I can tell. I have a sixth
Why do
sense.
you want to
I have
know?
a sixth sense for this kind of stuff, you know.
What is it in specific you would like to know? We were both young. What? No. Oh, I tell you what it was. He was doing a movie. He was starring in his first movie, and Leslie Ann Warren was going to see him. And my agent called and said, "Are you ready to go in and see Michael Douglas?" I said, "Who's that?" He said, "That's Kirk Douglas' son." I went, "Oh, really? Okay." And he's going to send you over the script, and then he wants you to come in and read. And I said, "Okay, why not?" Yeah, that's how I met him. Because he was producing the first film he did about Vietnam, some young man in Vietnam. I can't remember it.
Yeah, Summer Tree. I think that was right. That was it. Yeah.
No, I did Summer Tree with him.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I did Summer Tree with him. I tell you, here's the most interesting thing about Michael was his father his father is interesting, let me tell you. We went to see him in the play. He was doing an off-Broadway play. And it was the first play that Michael had ever done. And as we were going out of the theater, walking to go backstage to see him, his father said, "He can't be in the theater." And I said, "What? Why?" He said, "He doesn't have the voice. He'll never have a career in the theater." And he said, "He shouldn't stay here. He should go to Hollywood. He should go to LA." So he said, "Because he'll be a star there." You know, he said, "Don't let him stay here." Well, it was my home. New York was my home. And so we went backstage. I never said a word. We all went out. And I guess his father had said something to him about it, gently, I presume, you know. And I guess he was thinking it over carefully and decided that we were going to go to California. He said, "Would you come with me?" I said, "Yeah." And because I figured I could work there too, I hoped, you know. But I had a cat and 3 kittens. So I had to take them on the plane. It was a big move. I left my apartment, and within 6 weeks, he got Streets of San Francisco. So his father was right. He wasn't going to star in the theater. It wasn't going to happen. The one thing you need in the theater is a voice. And you have to know how to throw it. And, you know, it's a different kind of work. And he was very good on film, wasn't he? See? Yeah.
And smart. I mean, obviously, he produced One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, right? I mean, that
Yes.
was his movie, and you know, so yeah, there's a good Hollywood family right there, you know.
Yeah. And when when I realized it wasn't anything I wanted to live with anymore, my mother warned me and said, you know, you have to know about longevity. You have to have respect for changes. And so you don't run away from something. You should marry him. And I remember saying, "But I'm not in love with him anymore." She said, "You will be in 5 years, maybe." And I went, "What?" She said, "Brenda, relationships are like this. Things change." She said, "I'll tell you about my sister." I said, "Yeah." She said, well, Jean was married to Nick Baronello for 40 years. And she really should have been an opera singer at the Met. She went and she auditioned and she was brilliant. And she said she stayed with Nick, who was a presser. You know, you get your clothes done. And so when he was dying in Levittown, Long Island, they came with a stretcher and they were carrying him out. And she leaned down and said, good riddance, Nick.
You didn't think that's where the story was going. I loved every minute of it with you.
I mean, I couldn't believe. I said, Aunt Jean did that? She said, yes, but she stayed. She said that generation knew that time and things would change and relationships go through changes, especially if they last that long. You're married a long time.
40 years, and I am married 40 years, and I'm happy to say my wife is with me on the cruise this time, and fantastic.
I think I told you. But
Okay.
it's like, it's true. You know, I mean, it's a friendship, and you have to have respect for it. And, you know, things change in friendships, don't they? They do.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and so today you get divorce lawyers are making more money than anybody. You know? Well, anyway, that's what I think.
Well,
I'm different about it.
thank you very much for sharing that. I appreciate it.
It's a nice note to leave on. Bye-bye.
Well, no, and we are running out of
Nice to
time.
see you. Bye-bye.
But hold on. Before we leave, because this is the last event, and you set me up with a nice segue for this, with that particular story, because I don't know how many of you maybe saw One True Thing, Carl Franklin's movie that was shown on the cruise, which is a wonderful story about a woman who stays with a man, right? Meryl Streep was nominated for the Oscar for this. She stayed with her husband, and the daughter didn't quite understand. The daughter idolized her father, but didn't really love her mother, or she loved her mother, but didn't. And it was, and Meryl Streep gives that fabulous monologue about why you stay with someone through thick and thin and all that. And I just want to share something with you guys, because being on this cruise, and I think Brenda probably feels the same way, was very moving for Carl. And he said something to me after the sail away today that was so profound. Because Carl doesn't really actively make movies anymore, right? But he said after this cruise, you people inspired him that he wants to make movies again, because he doesn't get to see the end user of what he does. He doesn't have face-to-face reaction with people who are sharing what they feel in these movies. And I'm just gonna say, a little straight talk here, that I kind of talked Carl and his wife Jessie into coming on this cruise, right? Because Carl and I are pretty good friends now, and it was so amazing because he said, you know, I said, I know what you think you dread about going on a cruise is that you're going to be trapped with 1,600 strangers. And I said, Carl, there are no strangers on this cruise, right? And he said, man, you were so right on about that. These people are fantastic. And yeah.
It's my first cruise, and everybody, I just loved it because they would say, oh, I'm sorry. People would say, Brenda, that was great, Brenda. And I was like, my God, this is so great. And the other night when everybody was dancing on the floor all together in that club,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I thought it was fabulous. And I said, Americans, I love them. They were all so loving and dancing and joyful, and they were all, who knows?
Well, this crowd is a bunch of Americans, but
Yeah.
there aren't a lot of Americans working this ship, I can tell you. And they're fabulous, and it's great.
But, I mean, aren't we great?
The people on this cruise, absolutely great. And you know what, Brenda, I think we could keep doing this for another 3 or 4 hours.
Nice to see you, bye-bye.
I think this was a wonderful wonderful way to close out this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for the one and only